A lot of people like you, the millennials, they don't know the story.
I was 1 year old.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We have a story that everyone's been talking about.
Lorena Bobbitt is charged with malicious wounding for the sexual mutilation of her husband.
Put it to the base of his penis and cut.
The real story is the scandal you knew, the story you don't know.
In 1993, Lorena Bobbitt cut her husband's penis off after years of alleged abuse. The media painted her as crazy, dodging the opportunity to actually have a national conversation about domestic violence. But now, with the new docuseries from Amazon, Lorena has another shot at retelling her story, and it looks very different than it did 25 years ago. Watching the docuseries, I was stunned to see that you were just reduced to a punchline.
Every time I've done an interview, reporters always take it to the wrong side of the whole story. And it seems to me that everyone has missed the point of my story. This is not a story about a crazy Latina woman who wake up and did the deed to her husband just because. It has a history. We have a history of domestic violence. I was assaulted, sexually assaulted, marital rape. So all of these factual things that happen need to be told again. And that's very important for me.
At the point where you were in the middle of it, did you ever think that 25 years later you'd have the chance to tell your story again in your own words the way that you are now?
No, I did not. I did not have that thought at all. I thought that, since everybody have already formed their own opinion, I thought that was it. Yeah. This is it. This was gonna be the way how it was told, and it was going to be, a joke for forever and ever.
Melissa Jeltsin was reporting on domestic violence when she decided to contact Lorena in 2016.
It seemed like there's got to be more nuance to this story than how it was presented. It just felt like we probably really got her story wrong. It was such a clear, she's the villain, she's a psycho woman who chopped off a dick and threw it out the window. It just got stuck down under the dick jokes.
John Wayne Bobbitt. He's the guy, of course, whose wife cut off his schween.
The people who were in charge of creating the narrative around her story were men who probably didn't have any clue what it was like to be a victim of domestic violence. When I reached out to her, she hadn't been in the media spotlight for some time. It had been, probably 22, 23 years when I reached out.
I love her persistence because that actually got us here where we are now.
When her case happened, it was before the Violence Against Women Act, which was passed in 1994. It was before the creation of the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which we now have and take for granted that victims can call 24/7 if they need help. At the time when she was being assaulted by her husband, there was not that much help available.
I wish I know the things that I know now, so I knew what to do back then, but unfortunately we didn't have these resources. Yeah. I also wanted to tell, times were different, yeah. And you can only do certain things with what you had back then.
The media dropped the ball on talking about domestic violence, but they also got another thing completely wrong.
They keep saying I was just a hot-blooded Latina woman.
I'm Latina as well, and at the time you were being labeled as a hot-blooded, crazy Latina. How did that feel?
It felt racist to me. Back then it was very hurtful that the media would actually label me like that. Mm-hmm. And so that was hurtful.
I want to read this stat here. As of 2017, 78% of sexual and domestic violence victims who are immigrants showed reluctance in contacting the police.
Right. That to me, Latino or women or any women who have, who is an immigrant, and have the status of immigrant, they're afraid to call the police. Mm-hmm. And as an immigrant woman, I felt that I was threatened by my husband all the time that, he said no to call the police because if you call the police, they're going to have them kick you out of this country. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I'm coming out with the story. You know, the whole event happened 25 years ago, but now it seems like now we have a new layer of what's going on here.
I've had a lot of men writing to me and saying, well, now you are turning into a hero for cutting off her husband's penis. Being able to acknowledge her for what she's gone through is not about, you know, making her into a hero for what she did, but rather her ability to persevere after years of abuse and then being turned into this like national laughingstock, which stuck with her for 2 decades.
Your daughter now is 13 years old. What do you want her to take from your story?
Someday she'll grow into a woman and go to college. I want her to go to college. I want her to walk free into campus and say that, you know what, I don't have to take this. I want her to give her a voice. I want her to feel safe. And women should feel free at their own house, anywhere you are, at work, on the streets, anywhere.